When last we met, rock, paper, scissors was starting to look like something. Here it comes. There it is. I like it. I like how it's looking. Now I think we're running into some limitations. One of our one limitation is we got to get rid of this, because if we can run rematches now, which I thought we could. Guess we better take a look at our rematch function, make sure that's still working. The other limit we're running into quickly is my architectural curiosity of saying something like, hey, let's just make all of the application logic run through flow. I think starting to butt up against some challenges when it comes to dynamic querying. So for example, we have this one API class that our UI calls into to do lots of different stuff. And, get games by user is actually calling into a flow with the same name, which returns a couple of Apex defined variables, does really a lot of work to get the resulting data back in this format. And this is cool, but this list is going to grow, and we're probably going to want to filter and sort and do pagination, I guess is the right word. And I think all those are going to get hard for a few reasons inside of Flow. We can talk through those a little bit. Get games by user is our flow. So here are the challenges, right? I would like to maybe be able to filter games that I've won, games that I've lost, games in the last 30 days, filter by opponent, those sorts of things. In here, the challenge is there's some things that first of all, we just can't do dynamically. So we can sort and filter within a result set in a flow. But if I look at sort, I can't merge these values. They have to be, like, I can't do something like sort field. Can't do that. We need to be able to name the fields or call the fields dynamically by name. And Flow is just going to say nope to that. I also can't dynamically reference a page size, which this would be really our pagination size right here. I can't do that either. So that's kind of a bummer. Nor can I indicate if I'm sorting ascending or descending. And I really can't, without a lot of complexity, do more sophisticated filtering in here. So I think something that I've learned in this exercise, because this was an experiment, kind of wanted to prove that we could do it. Now the question is if we should do it. That when it comes to dynamic querying and getting results, Flow's just not. Flow natively just isn't going to do it for us. Arguably, I could maybe make an invocable or something like that, but honestly, if I'm going to write an invocable, might as well just write the apex. Write an apex anyway. I might as well just write the apex for the call. Now I can still use these wrapper. These wrapper objects. I think those might still come in handy. And honestly, it's how all of our code is referencing things right now. So that might be a change that we make. So I think our get games by user flows days are numbered, replaced with some dynamic querying. But first, let's figure out why we can't run any rematches on anything that's in our list, because that seems just plain wrong. And let's take a look and find out why. I think we're passing. We have a little bit of logic in here that says enable that or don't enable that function. So let's take a look here. If rematch game ID is not undefined, then we cannot rematch. Basically, if a rematch has already been done or initiated, we can't initiate another one. So let's render rematch game ID out here somewhere so we can see if we're allowed to do that. Or if we just have a bug somewhere. All right, let's render that. Hey, cutes, how's it going? Welcome back. All right, so we did a rematch of the tie. Oh, I know why we can't do it. It's working exactly how it should. It's these games are all pending for the opponent, so I can't rematch a pending game. Meanwhile, these other two that are completed have had rematches started on them, so we can't rematch there either. So I'm going to fake one of these games to bump it ahead and act as if I'm player U2. And let's open this in a new tab, kind of see what we got going on here. I'm doing good, cutes. Doing good. Got a late start on the show tonight due to technology issues. I think I continue to have issues with my computer. I think it's trying to tell me something, or I think I'm trying to convince myself that it's trying to tell me something like, hey, you need a shiny new computer, man. I probably have some other people to convince. Same thing. All right, I think this is the, I think that's this pending. It's one of these two October 19th games here. So let's pretend to be user 2 and make a move here. What do we got out there? I want to win a round. So we'll have, I think if we play paper, I'll be the winner. User 2 will be the loser. And yes. Yes, indeed. I trounced user 2. Okay, so now yes, rematch enabled. Good, good. And one other thing we were working on last time was when we do a rematch, we want it to automatically push onto the list of games that we've got going on. So why don't we test that real quick? I can't recall if I fixed this or not. So let's see. It would be handle new game. We would be calling that after create game. So let's see how we do here. All right, I'm going to do a rematch. I'm going to play... I'll play rock. All right, we got our game. Our new game ID. We set our current game's rematch ID from that. Oh, we had an error. What's going on? It's not game, not rematch. Okay. What do we get on the console here? Cannot set oh, right, because we got read-only fun. Read-only fun. Always a good time. Now, I think we did, in fact, get a new game. We just didn't handle it properly coming back. Yep. Here's our new game. I'll take this debug data out of here in a second. Let's see. So, let's see. Game, rematch. So because we're getting this back from... Whoops. Our game is in read-only mode. Or our game data is read-only because it's been passed to us from... I should have passed to us. It's been passed to this component from a parent. And, you know, parent says no touchy, right, when that happens. So that's okay. We can... I think if we just create our own rematch ID field, we can set that. Rematch game ID. I'm going to use that. We're going to get that back. We need to set rematch ID to a value. And then here we'll set rematch ID. We won't set it directly on the game, just because that's what's read only. But we do need to set that when we receive our game. Because this is passed in from the parent, let's see. We're gonna, this is fun. API set game. I don't have the structure set up for this offhand, so let's shamelessly steal from another component, I hope, so we can do a little more. What else have I got? We got lots of projects. Let's go look at, let's go take a look at maybe icon inventory. Our other project has this going on. Let's see. Let's see. So we'll make a we'll make an internal variable called underscore game. We'll set that. And then we'll return that. And then we'll also set that should do us right, I think. And then we can change this reference to just rematch game ID. Not that we need it in the long run, but I think now we captured the property. Rematch game ID, and it's our property, not something that's being passed to us, so we are allowed to edit it and update it. And because it's relative to the game that we're currently looking at, we should be okay. So let's see if that's all true. Yep, so far so good. Okay. I'm going to finish another game so we can do another rematch. Pretend to be user 2. I played rock. I would like to win again, so rock breaks scissors. There we go. Okay, so now we can rematch here. So let's get our console out. Follow the scent and see if we get to what we're looking for here. This hopefully gets us past the read-only situation. So I'm going to play rock again. Go create a game. Get our rematch ID back. Okay, now we got it. We're going to unrematch. That's a method that... Go find that a second. Unrematch just tells our component that we're not in the rematch setup state. So clicking calling unrematch should remove the UI here and take it back to its original state. And it's kind of a one-way door, because now that we have a rematch ID, we shouldn't be able to, we shouldn't see that. So let's see if that is true, because that'll be the next step. And then our final step will be to see if the parent handles the incoming data. So let's step over this. So we unrematched, but we're still showing. It could be that it just hasn't re-rendered yet. So let's dispatch our event. We've got our, I believe e.detail is going to be our there's all of our stuff. The only issue with this is because we're going to push this back onto the list, it's technically going to come back down to its own game element or component, and it does not have the rematch ID on it. So again, the whole read-only situation. As I'm thinking this through a little bit further, the best bet might be for us to send a copy of our object with game rematch ID populated when it goes back up to the parent. So the net effect here should be we get a new row that's gray, or I'm sorry, yellow, because it's in pending state. And we'll see if that's the case. We're also missing some important data points for when this happens, which again is kind of like, is it worth doing, is it worth doing this function in Flow? I think, I do think the answer is yes, but we need to sprinkle on a few more properties to get so that the data comes back in the format that it needs to. So let's see what happens. Did we get an error? Create game complete, but uncaught promise. It did not. Okay, it set our UI back to what we needed it to be, but it did not write the. Well, hold on a minute. Did I actually tell it to? Let's see. Call handle new game games.unshifty.detail. Did we even get that far? I don't know if we got that far. Dispatch event new game data. Oh, we're gonna run it again. See how we did. Let's see. Got a new game. Yep. I'm going to take this out because it's ugly. Just clean that up a little bit. Okay. There we go. Starting to pile up here. Okay, let's fake this latest game. Cute says rock. We're going to play rock. This is going to end in a tie. Rock versus rock. Should be a draw. And there we go. All right. Deadlock. Standoff. Rematch. Yes, sir. Before we do that, I want to try to... Let's dispatch game data. Use everybody's favorite favorite trick here. Let new game data equal. This is a poor man's object clone without clone by value instead of clone by no references, turns it into a JSON string, turns it back into a new object, and then we can have new game data dot rematch game ID, which is the field that we wanted in the first place, equals our rematch game data. Probably don't need that field. Well, yeah, we already wired it up, so we'll just let it ride. And then we'll pass that instead. So now the parent arena component should get this data and then pop it onto our, or I should say unshift it onto the array that's here. That's what we want. Let's see what we get. All right, I think we're all debugged up here, ready for battle. And now here's the other thing. I'm willing to bet that games is that also read only? Can I add a new? So I got to probably do some data structure mojo here because I want to push or unshift a new item onto this array, but I think it's going to give me the read only grief here as well. Let's find out. Let's do a rematch. I'm going rock again. Comes back. Gonna unrematch. Gonna make ourselves a new object with all the stuff that we need. Gonna put rematch ID on there. We're gonna pass it to the custom event, rating on the arena. We should end up here. We do. E.details, a new object. Games is, yes, this is a proxied object again. Let's just check games. That should be what we're dealing with here. Yep. So we want to put another game on this list. And let's see, where are we? We're going to do that, and we'll pause it finally. I don't know if we end up with an error. Yeah, something's... We have every reason for that to work, except the fact that it's not working. I think it's because games is read-only because it's coming back. Well, I don't know. Is it read-only when it comes back from... Is it read-only when it comes back from a Apex, or what do you say? An Aura-enabled callout. So it should just be popping it on there. Are we tracking that? That may also be an issue. If we're not tracking... No, we're tracking games. So that shouldn't be an issue. It should re-render. Let's see. Does unshift just set the value, or does it? No, because if it didn't just set the value, we wouldn't have all the other stuff. It would take the other items off of the array. So why don't you stick the new... I got it now, but that's not when I want it. So many colors. So we go here, but we don't actually push the item onto the array. If that were to happen, it would also fire these off. So maybe, all right, one more time. Probably not just one more time, but another time. Let's fast forward this game. I win again. It's funny how I can just keep winning these. It's like I know exactly what the opponent is playing. Okay, let's see. So if we are to push this on, to push a new game onto the... yeah, I know we're returning that a lot. Let's turn that off for a second. Oops, did we rematch? Rematch. I'll go scissors this time. Hypothetically, if we add that to the array, it should set the game up here when it creates a new component. But I don't think we're getting that far, and I'm not really sure why. We got a new game. Do our data setup here. We don't have all of the information, but we should have enough that it wouldn't... Maybe. All right, let's step into our handler here. So again, we did confirm that games, this .games is... Yep, that's our list of games. And where e.detail is another object that we're putting onto that we're unshifting onto that array. I probably should have another, wish I had another line here so that we could evaluate after it's been added. So it's just, what's this .games.length right now? It's 8. So after we add this, it should be 9. And can I just step over this? Yes. So now it's 9, but it's not re-rendering our latest object or our latest element. Unless it's putting it at the bottom. Maybe unshift should put it at the top, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Now again, I'm catching this, so I'm hoping that this gets called when we set the property. Let's see. Game completed. So here's our new game coming in. I think, unless it's re-rendering everything. Let's see what val are we on here. I think this is the one. I don't know for sure. 1027. I have no idea about the date. So it is. This would imply that it is getting reevaluated and it is trying to render a new game. Maybe it is trying, and we're just missing something in the when we render a game. So we what are we trying to do here? I don't know if we need that key, to be honest. If I look at the arena, yeah, it's just rendering each game. So I don't know if that actually just is issuing a re-render to everything that's already there. I'm really hoping that it just includes the new game. I don't think we need this. Yeah, I don't think there's no reason to have that there. Okay, well, let's keep stepping, because this suggests that it is coming back around. But yeah, not rendering a new one. And I don't think there's anything in our logic that says that wouldn't allow it to render. Container style, what is, maybe that's part of our problem. I probably should have debugged that. That could be the issue. Container style, this dot outcome, that's going to be undefined. I wonder, did our markup change? Let's see. Oh yeah, we let's see. Wait. Let's go all the way up. Yeah, see, we got one, right? We got our new. All right, so it is rendering. We just don't have enough stuff to tell it. There's nothing. This is it rendered an empty arena game, so it's getting it. It's re-rendering it, and then it's looking and saying, "I don't have everything that you need in order to render the rest of you." I'm guessing. Excuse me. It's probably blowing up on some undefined value, which might be what we're dealing with here. Maybe because it's in the act of re-rendering, it doesn't have a lot of patience for the error that we're getting. Because obviously, if we re-render, if I refresh this page, I'm going to get it back. So, okay. So again, this is kind of like, well, what I probably should do is, at a minimum, when we call create game, I would actually like to get not games, not plural, but like a get game call here, so that I could get a game in the data structure that we need it in, that would be consistent with what we've got in the flow, which then again begs the question, how challenging is it in flow to generate the data structure that we need? It's a really nice idea, but it does prove a bit more challenging to create Apex defined types and structure them in flow compared to in Apex, where I know I can do it, very quickly. So, but that would be the right way to go, is to, create this game and then return game data, but instead of just returning what comes from the flow, actually request the game data in the in the right format, so it has all the fields that it needs. Otherwise, I have to do that. Excuse me, in create game. I mean, I could return to this. I could go and then query get games by user again, but that's pretty inefficient, right? As this list grows, it would be nice to just plop whatever the newest game is on top, and just so alternatively, all right, here's maybe another approach to this. It would be nice if this list just kept growing. So if I was the opponent and I was on this page, if a new element dropped in because I was, summoned to battle by an opponent, that would imply like a platform event in the streaming API. So this arena is basically listening for new games to come into the system. And if it sees a new game comes in and the opponent or the player are currently looking at the UI, then plop, drop a new game in. I still think it's most efficient if that could just happen, right? Me as the current user who's running a rematch, it should just show up immediately, right? So I don't have to wait for the platform event, but I would want to issue a platform event so my opponents could receive them if they came through. So I feel like it was a valiant architectural experiment to create a couple of Apex defined data types and try to work them through the flow, but it's starting to feel like a lot of work to to create those. So like if we take a look at, let's take a look at the other flow. Let's look at create game. This is what gets called to actually create the game. And, you know, nothing for nothing. This works. We're setting the game data here at the end. This might not be worth doing here. This might make more sense in a different call, so that we know there's only one place to get game data in the right format, and it would be that other call. Now, whether we want to do that as a flow or do that as an Apex call, you know, that what I would then want to do, right, is be able to pass. If I'm going to set up something that returns a robust game data object, I want it to be usable in a lot of different ways. So if I need to, in my case, I need to just get a game, right? So get game by ID or something like that. I need to get games by user, which returns a list of game data. So I want to be able to get the same structure back and know that it's confidently populated the same way. And there probably will be others. You know, the querying that I mentioned at the start of the show, we're going to want to do a lot of dynamic querying, and it should also return robust game data objects that are consistent with what we're using already. So I guess we'll start simple, right? Let's create that get game by ID call. So we'll start to make our shift back to the land of Apex with some of these changes. So this is going to be a single game data. I would normally not call this. I would always be calling in lists, but I have a very specific use case here that would say, really, when this executes, when create game is done, I'm going to just turn around in that same command and query out one record. But I wouldn't be using this, you know, in any other, you know, for any other purpose for performance sake. So we'll pass in the game ID, and let's return. So first thing we're going to get back is a game. We have a lot more fields that we need to be returned as part of that, but let's see. We need the game data is let's create a game data or game data structure here. And then we can see what that's expecting, all of these fields. So our game ID. Now, what would probably be smart of me is to maybe create a private and call it init game data. So this I can pass, if I pass the game into this, then it'll give me what I'm about to do up here. So I got one factory to drop these, to drop a game into and get the structured data out that I want. Back up the truck and get what we need. Now it assumes that we have all the fields that we need on the game object. Let's copy paste a little bit here. These are also Apex data types. So we're going to have to do a little more work at the bottom there. We should be able to query everything out, I think. See, what we really need here is not just game. We need from the bottom up, we really need the player move, then the player, then the game. So this, I'm gonna flip this a little bit. So what we're actually gonna return, and this is why we'll structure the data. We're gonna get a list of player moves. And then we're going to traverse up through the relationships. That's going to be player game equals game ID. So what do we need? Oops, player.game.rematch. Okay, so that gets us all the game related information, and then now let's look at player data, because we also need, we're going to create those objects along the way also. That's, where were we? Oops. Let's put these down in here, actually. So we need player ID, player.user, player.status, player. I think that's user.name. And then player move actually has the move ID and the move name. All right. So a handful of fields. We're going to get 2 of these records back, and then we can order by what is that field? Player dot is current user. It's either ascending or descending, so we can always guarantee that the first, well, it's depending on how the sort goes, either the first or the last player is going to be the current user, the player requesting this game data. And if it's not the current requester, then that means it's the opponent. Okay, so we got all of that. Now, nothing for nothing, this one query does about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It does all the steps up to the loop here. So, this is again a little bit of like I love me some flow. I think it's awesome. Use it whenever you can, kids. But if I had to pick between writing some Apex to do a query that allows me to to traverse some relationships, or have to do this kind of, query number 1, get unique values, query number 2, get unique values, query number 3, and then do some sorting on top of that. It's a lot. It's a lot. Then we're going to do a loop. Well, in our case, we're just trying to get our, what we're setting up here is if we can initialize game data, then I can just pass in, what I would do from here is just say, so we're not actually going to pass in game data. We're going to pass in player moves to build this. So then we know that player moves, what's the relationship? So player moves, we know they're always in pairs, right? So there's always two player moves make up a game. 2 player moves that represent 2 players that make up a game. So it doesn't matter which one I pull from. I can get I can pick from either player and get to the game. Excuse me. Ooh. Is it that late? Is it my bedtime? Jeez. Rematch ID. So we're just going to copy paste this down through a little bit. Okay. That's going to be, make this a little taller so it's easier to go back and forth. So we got rematch. We got created date. Last modified. And status. Okay, and then we've created 2 player data records here, so I think we can do, these are both going to be the same. So what I would then do is like, let's init player data, right? And that's going to be, yeah, we'll pass that a player move. Whoops, that was weird. There we go. Okay. Drop all these in there. Okay, so we got new player data, and then from our player move, whoops. Player move dot player, user ID, player move dot player dot user. Status is I believe that's on the player level. We keep track of the status. Is that what we queried out up above? Yeah. Name, player move.user.name, and move player move.move.name. Okay, then we'll return that. All right, so then we should be able to say init player data, player moves. I think it's the first one in the couplet, the pair, whatever word you want to use. And then the opponent's going to be the other one. So we'll find out quick if this is right or not. Okay, so now we can build our data structure that we want to use inside of our component. Nice and solidified, easy to work with. We don't have to. The player move thing is like admittedly confusing just because of how the data is being stored, but we have to store it that way for privacy's sake. What we do need in here is to not. We don't want to expose the move of the opponent, so I'm gonna just give myself a to-do. Do not expose do not expose opponent's move. Well, and actually, what we can do, let's not do that here. Right? We can just set. This should be number 1. Right? So my to-do here would be game data.opponent. Really, if game data.status does not equal complete, I think, then whoops. Game data.opponent.move equals null. So we don't want to give it away. All right. How do we do? Oh, and then again, we would just return init game data with our player moves. Oh, I got a bug. What do we break? Missing required return type from init. Oh, yeah, that would help. Oh, this should be init player data, not init game data. Okay, so now when we get a single record, so really what we're setting up here is this is the query, the fields that we need to return in order to get the data out in the structure that we need to generate it in the structure that we want to use in the component. This is the same query that get games by user would call, but with a different query string, essentially. So we can convert this into some dynamic SOQL and then pass in, kind of have a base query structure for this, for getting this data out. And then what we're doing is saying, all right, in this case, it's just, I guess we forgot the important part there, right? Where, no, we've got it here. Where game, where player.game equals this. And then our order clause is going to be, this is going to be important. But if we're returning many records, we probably would want to order by, game. And, our default has been created date. we really want to order by game ID. Yeah, we can order by game. And then with each, because let's imagine this is not just returning one game, right? We want to return many games for a user. So we want to order by the game first. So we want to create basically groupings within our results. So our pairs of users or player moves are next to one another. I guess arguably we could order by player move, but I'm going to go with the game just so it's because that makes more sense to me. So order by the game, then order by the player is current user. So that should put us first, whoever's requesting the data, put the opponent last. And then this would work for one record or many records where we're just adjusting the where clause to scope it, or what we want to have come back. So I'd do a little bit more plumbing work to make that possible. I think right now I'm probably going to cheese out and just copy what we had and return use the same query. What was that? Why is my wrist beeping? So let's do that real quick. Come down here to get games by user. Now we also have an object that we use to request into this. So maybe that gets a little bit more generic also. So we don't end up with 100 different data types for that. But we'll say get games by user, and then I believe this has a user ID attached to it. So we want to. So this is a little bit more interesting, right? So what we really need here is a list of games that the current player is in. Now that means that I can't start my query at player moves. I actually have to start my query at player and get those games, get the unique IDs. So we do have to do a similar step to what we're doing here, which is get unique values so we can pass it into a second query to get the data out that we need. So I would do something like this, say list of players. Select ID. What we really want is game back from these, where user equals get game request dot user ID, I think is the field. Yep. Okay, then we can, right, from player, where user equals stuff. Maybe we can sort by, let's order by game descending, so the most recent stuff is at the top. And then we're going to have a set of IDs, so our game IDs equals set, and then let's loop through our. This is a utility function that I've probably written 1,000 times, but don't have it close at hand right now. So we'll just write it one more time. 1001. Game IDs.add p.game. Okay, so now I've got all of it's a set, so I don't have to worry about there being duplicates. Not that there would be, because we shouldn't have duplicate players in the same game. But now I've got a set of game IDs, so I can come down here and say where game equals game IDs, sort through that. Now we're going to return a list of game data here. So let's init one of those. We'll call it very cleverly game datas. Equals, whoops, new, I'm having trouble with my fingers tonight. New list game data. And now let's loop our player moves. So this is a little bit, so now we have to do what this was doing, right? Which is we need to get these into pairs. So I need to create within this list some structure that will let me, I need to loop it, but I need to build a list of player moves 2 by 2 each time I go through it. So we're gonna, let's see, put on our thinking caps here. We need to loop through this no matter what. So for player move, we'll say PM in player moves. Actually, I'll be maybe good about that. Let's name things what they are. Let's set a integer. Just call this index, right? Equals 0. Let's see, if index mod 2 equals 0, we're on an even number element. Otherwise, we're on an odd number element. So if we're on an even, we're gonna make another list of player moves, so we can pass these in and out of our call, our init game data call. So we need that handy. So if we're on an even, then we're going to create a new, we're going to reinitialize this. And then we're going to add this player move to it. Otherwise, we're going to, well, actually, all we really need to do is, no, let's leave it like this, because we're either going to create a new list, add the first element, which would be the current player, or we're going to add the opponent and then go get our, go get a game data with those two. So game datas dot add init game data with our list of, with our temp player moves. And then that should keep cycling, clunk, 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 and we'll get our game datas that we're ready to return. So that is interesting. They're kind of accidentally doing a side-by-side compare of flow logic to Apex logic, but this is the loop that we're running through here, and we're really doing the same thing, right? So if it's mod 0, it's even. We create game data and current player data, drop through, come back. Now the next increment is odd. So we are doing that check here if the game status is pending. Is it pending, or are there other statuses? I forget. I guess we just have pending. So this is the check to say, should we show the move to the player? But so again, a for loop versus a flow loop, you can kind of see they're both doing the same thing. There's actually, every single thing that we've got here, this for is that loop element. This if condition is this decision here. We don't have to create our player data, because that's happening as part of our game data, as long as we pass the data in the right format. So that's a little bit of a change. This is the even side. So this logic here is basically this. This is the odd side. So this logic here, well, this isn't exactly the logic. We have that. This logic here is present here. Now I did does not equal complete. I guess I could say equals pending. Just to flip that around, we take away the move, so we don't expose the opponent's move to the current player if the game's not done. So yeah, that's, and the increment counter, right? So we're I forgot to do that. That's kind of important. After each iteration, we need to increment our index, or we're going to be sad. There's probably I could have done this with a 4, integer loop, increment up to the top, and then I could just have used that incrementer to evaluate. But there you go. We arrive at the same destination. All right. So with this, hypothetically, we have a perfect match for what Get Games by User used to do. So, what did we end up with? We've got, I got some problems. Math. Right. We got to do math.mod. Not, I think, right? Apex math.mod. Yep. I think I'm thinking JavaScript, that we can just use the percent there. Yeah, we got a mod 1. How do you work this? Yeah, so number, our index 2, that should be 0. All right, so if math.mod index 2, same thing. Now, go. See what else is broken here. Got some silly syntax errors, I think. Nope, that was it. Okay, that one change fixed everything. Okay, so now let's see. What do 84 down to 124? So we wrote 40 lines of code, which this would be an interesting comparison. I'm sure it doesn't really hold up like 1-to-1, but 40 lines of code was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 nodes, 15 elements in this flow. So about 3 lines of code per element is what we're, in this case, what we ended up with. And that's really like, this would be a little more efficient if we could traverse things a little easier. But as it is, I have to get the current players, and then I have to get the players by games, and then we have to get the player moves. So there's an extra query in there because we can't traverse through the parent hierarchy for these, right? This is where the where clause is where the flow falls down, because we can't do this in a where clause in flow. It can't traverse. It can only be a field on the object that you're querying, not a parent or an ancestor or whatever you call that. So that causes an extra step, because we have to basically simulate this where player.game equals with this second query here. So I don't know if any of this is useful. It's been kind of interesting to I haven't reverse engineered or talked through reverse engineering a flow back into Apex. That's in a low code future, that's not something that we would do a lot, but there may be occasions where that comes up. You get some benefits from having it in code that you just don't. There just isn't parity yet in flow. I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure a lot of the challenges that are here are going to be resolved in flow someday, and it will be easier to work with. So the one last thing here that we haven't done, and again, is more of a reminder, I guess, for me, is this and this are totally redundant. So we need to make this dynamic. So either of these can call. The only thing that's changing is the where clause. This will also be useful when we talk about some filtering. That would mean more dynamic where clauses, or some sorting by columns or something. That would also mean some, dynamic order by. Ooh, excuse me. But I think so. Things like ordering, well, sometimes we can get away with ordering on the client if we don't have a ton of data. But if I've got hundreds of rock, paper, scissors games, and I want to go to the first one, I'm going to do that in SOQL. I'm not going to do that in, I'm not going to get all the data back and then say, hey, JavaScript, now flip that giant array. First of all, it would take forever to get the data back. And second, we could just SOQL it. Pagination, right? That's going to be a thing. You got to have functionality for, so you can step through 25, 50, 200 at a time, whatever. Got to do that. But for right now, let's see if I broke everything. Hypothetically, what we just did would get us data in the format that we need it in, and everything just works. What do we think? Nope. I saw a lot of blood over here on the on our page. So let's see what did we end up with here. Let's see what the data just looks like when it comes back from our call. Get game, so games here. Make sure we're actually getting stuff back, right? That would be part of the deal. Looks good to me. Sure. Okay. And let's just see how some of these are coming through. This dot outcome. Definitely hitting an error somewhere else. I'm sure we just have a field that is not populated the way that it needs to be coming back from the. So let's do this. Let's grab this JSON and then we can drop it into Visual Studio Code and just prettify it and see what it looks like. Maybe we'll see if something's missing. So this represents all one game. So we got status, opponent, current player. Okay, so we need to flip that result, right? So current player is not me. It looks like right now it looks like I'm opponent in all of these. So let's flip our. We would do this descending, and also do this one descending. Okay, so that I don't think that's going to fix our whatever glitch we've got here that's keeping our stuff from rendering, but that's a fix we have to do regardless. Maybe that fixes everything. I don't think so, but let's refresh and find out. We know this is working, so I'm going to take these debugs out of the picture here. We know that output is working, or outcome. So that should all be... Let's check this. Just going to check these values, right? It's going to be something dumb, like name is capitalized or, something like that. Find move by, well, that's find move, so that shouldn't be an issue. All right, let's keep on chugging here. This dot outcome, that works right. This dot game dot current player. Let's get move icon name. Oh, that's going to drop us down here. So player move player.user ID. We've got that. Same player. So that should be good. Opponent. Same thing. Here we go. Move undefined. This was it right here. So it's gone back and forth on this a little bit. This is again probably another good utility to have is like, is there in Aura there used to be a is null or undefined that did exactly this. Like you kind of want to like check all the cases of falseness on these things. Like if exists is probably a good good existential question, but this is undefined in our current data structure. So whatever, I think we were returning an empty string in our flow model when it was generating our data structure. Now we're returning null, which is interesting because that if it's null in the data structure here, if it's null here, where'd we go? Oh my goodness. There. This action here is saying, hey, if the game's not complete, don't expose the opponent's move. So game data.opponent.move equals null will actually, it seems like it takes it completely out of the serialized data. Or not even the serialized data, but whatever Aura enabled, it's doing some JSON mojo from point A to point B. So it's taking that out in transit, and then we don't even have value for it. So we need to check, long story short, which I can't make it short now because it's already long, but we need to we need to change, where'd you go? This move, check for undefined here. I think this will fix everything, which will be good because we're closing in on time here. Didn't get to all the things I was thinking about this week, but this change I think sets us up to be a little more nimble in the future. I think that's the other thing too. Like I love Flow. I think everybody should use it all the time, copiously. At the same time, I know myself personally, I can get around some Apex quickly. So if speed is a factor in your project, it's a fair thing to consider. Can I get around? I could have left everything as is, but it was feeling like it was going to start taking longer and longer and longer to build with Flow. And I do think there is an aspect of just like fatigue, flow fatigue. I should write a blog post about that. I'm totally yoinking that term. I got no beef with flow, but I get fatigued sometimes when I'm working in there. Whereas when I'm used to looking at code, it's like, hey, it's all up on screen. I speak the language. I can beep bop boop through it quickly. I get into flow, and it's like it's a little bit different wiring of my brain to think through it. I can, it's clearly everything's possible and you can build with it, but just moves at a different pace mentally for me sometimes, especially when you have the load of complexity start to set in on some flows, and then you're sort of like, I don't know, an element of trust or mistrust starts to creep in. That's like, man, is this brittle, or is it just my brain feeling overwhelmed because there's a lot of boxes and arrows? But the psychology of flow fatigue. I'll go start working on my dissertation, I guess. Okay, does this work? Yep, this is working. I think we're back to where we wanted to be. I'm gonna take out all the debugs as I go here. Yay. Okay. Cool. This is getting big. I like it. I'm excited. Really looking forward to actually getting some people in on this org. Maybe an Experience Cloud site. Maybe I could do that off of hang that off of the hang that off of a Scratch org, and then maybe we just go like total wild west, right? Like, well, you do need a user. I guess that's the only thing. So, I wonder. Slight digression. Can I get some community licenses out of a? I didn't shape this Scratch org. I don't know if that matters, or if I have to, create it with any different licenses. What do they give you here? They give you a whole bunch of chat. They give you 10 company community licenses with a Scratch org. So, any more? 10's not bad. It's not like I got 1,000 people on the. Well, that was neat. Not like we have 1,000 people on the stream. Where on earth did I just go? Let's see. Field service mobile. I don't need that. Identity Connect. So we'll say 10. All right. So we could do a couple things. I got some platform users, some Salesforce platform users. This is all custom, right? I got 2 of those left. I got 1 Salesforce user we could use. I got 10 company community users. But wait, so it might be more like 5 customer community logins. I don't know. There's got to be some, not looking to break any EULA rules here, but would love to hand out a couple of logins to folks to come in and play some rock, paper, scissors. I know I keep saying that every week. I really want to make that happen. Just want this thing to be, tight before people come in and start using it. But anyway, sorry for the late start today. Gonna wrap it up because it's 10 o'clock here and getting to my bedtime. Feel like we're leaving this at a good stopping point. We migrated our flow back to Apex. We'll do some dynamic querying and sorting and filtering next time. Probably get rid of this nonsense because we can clearly create a game from here. So kind of figure out what the UI is. I envision the UI for a new game being like one of these, but just like dotted lines around it. Everything looks exactly the same, except you're picking who you want to battle and what move you want to make. And then it will just flow in from there. We talk about platform events and streaming APIs, so players can be notified when they've got a new game, and then eventually get into some tournament building. I'm super excited about that. I think that's going to be a fun logic puzzle to figure out how to build a data structure. And, if I think like NBA or NCAA Final Four or tennis tournament or something like that, like what logic do we have to think through to like make that work inside of Salesforce? But for now, done. Thanks for hanging out. See y'all tomorrow for Forsopoly during the day. Come check it out. The game is working, kind of. We have many other branches of logic to go down, but we're getting there. So tomorrow 11:30 to 1. No. Tomorrow's 1 to 3. Yep, 1 to 3 tomorrow. Forsopoly.